Okay, welcome everybody. Daf Chaf Amud Aleph, and we're in the middle of the sugya about Chak Tochos. And okay, if it's good. I forgot how we got into the sugya about Chak Tochos.
Can we write all kinds of writing?
The Gemara started about if I get written Shalom Lishma, does it help to write over it again? And the Gemara said the Gemara Pashas came out that maybe it is good, but we said the Rambam Pashas that it's not good. Maybe you have a different girsa that maybe it's not even according to Yehuda that holds by Sefer Torah that it is good by the Shem Hashem, but by get maybe since it has to be creases, maybe it's not good. Then the Gemara said, Krista said he could pass a little gitin, just to recap a little bit, just to see what we're holding over here. And the Rav Krista said all gitin have a problem. And the Gemara said, what might the problem be? If it's because that the women are the ones who usually pay for the get, even though the husband's supposed to pay, because we wanted to, shouldn't be any hesitation. The husband doesn't have the money right now because he's not in such a rush. The woman is. So the woman gave the money, but it's not a problem because doesn't have. So that's not a problem. And the problem of sometimes he gives the get on something which is not worth anything. It's also not a problem because even the Surya no Akasha, not only Allah Shal Zayis, which is worth less than a prut, even if it's not worth anything at all. Okay, Tanar Rabbanan, there's we started from. Because of Allah B'chakar. That to engrave a get, that's where the sugya started. That because of Allah B'chakar, that it's not kosher to engrave a get. And the Gemara says, why not? Chakik is very good. That it says in the Brisa that Shtar Shechur could be made with engraving. So it is kosher. The Gemara says the difference is, it does say embroidery is not good. Embroidery is not considered writing. That's interesting to know. Embroidery is not considered writing. And then the Gemara says the chiluk between Chak Tochos and Chak Yerechos, that if he engraves the letter itself is kosher, but if he engraves everything around the letter and the letter remains written because everything else was pressed down around it, that's not kosher. Because this also has relevance to Hilchas Tam by a sofer that you have to write the letter, but you cannot use erase part of the puzzle part in order to make it a kosher letter. Yesterday we gave an example where someone wrote a vav and he has to really write a yud. So then he's just gonna erase the bottom of the vav and he has a yud. That's not kosher. It's not a kosher yud because he created it by taking away he cut away the outside in order to make the letter. He wrote a vav. Right. See, that's important for a sofer. They make corrections. You shouldn't use the knife, whatever they scratch out, however they erase. Not to use that in order to make the letter. Right, that you can do. So that's also by get. Chak Tochos, Chak Yerechos. The Gemara is a kasha, Chak Yerechos. Chak Yerechos is the kosher one, that you cut out the letter itself. And Chak Tochos means that you cut. So Rashi doesn't explain the word itself. I think it means the letter itself, the Yorech. If you'd say thigh, the thing itself, that by a letter we talk about the head and the back and the thigh and the leg. I'm not sure if that's the reason. Rashi doesn't explain it over here. Chak Tochos means that, let's say, by the letter base, you're going to scratch out the inside. And then you're going to have the base because you scratched away the inside, or by a pay, or by a mem. I don't know why. Maybe that's the reason why it's called Chak Tochos. That's not kosher. The Gemara is a kasha that it says by the tzitz, they made it like golden coins that are, what would you call it, embossed? Is that the way you say it? So that's how you make a golden coin. You have a minting press and you press on the plate of gold and it presses down everything around it, and whatever's left is the image that you want to remain. So you see that it's kosher. It says that's how tzitz was made. So the Gemara says it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that they made it the same way as this. The result was the same way as the coins. And our coins also not the golden coins. That the result was that it was protruding. It was not indented. But how do you do it? You have to do a different process. You can't use the minting process that they press down. You have to press on the letter itself. And even though it says that it's protruding, so Rashi explains you have to go from the back. You have to go from the behind. The backside of the plate of gold, and then you press it down, and that's going to make the letter protruding on the other side. That's the day Lev Yaakov pointed out that it's going to be a mirror image. You're not writing it. You have to write the mirror image, which is a chiddush. That's called writing. That's interesting. That's called writing. I guess maybe it's not such a big chiddush, but that's what comes out. Up to the bottom over here, about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines in the bottom. I haven't figured out how to use the highlighting over here. So it's not working. Okay. So I don't know how to use it there. But Roshma Michvitz Choretz Kanufi Michnef. Roshma means the fancy English word is going to be die, the D-I-E, which means, I just got it from that what you use in order to press down. On when you press down, like the stamp, we would call like the stamp, but whatever you use to make a coin, you press down with a die. That's called a Roshma, a stamp. Okay. So how does that work? So now it's talking about the physical properties, not writing, of embossing, to emboss, make a. So how does it work? That's called the Rosham. Why did I say die? That's the word that they use. That's the fancy word for making a, what we would call, what would you call it? Stamp, but not a stamp that just has ink. Something that's going to press down the metal. No, D-I-E. I got it from this book over here. D-I-E, D-I-E. But if it gets confusing, should I use a different word? That's the Rosham. That's the Rosham in Hebrew. Rashi has the word here. The Kli is called an impression? The Kli. We need the Kli. The Kli. I got it from this book. It's called Targum Laws. It has the French words. Rashi says here, if you look at Rashi over here, Rashi says the word is coins or quince, however you might pronounce it. So I just looked in this book over here. You see the Rashi over here? Rashi, the 5th wide line. Let's read it again. I saw it yesterday. Maybe I'm doing something. Die, D-I-E, to stamp coins. It says in the bottom, if you don't know what a die is, an engraved device that stamps a design onto coins. Maybe it's Old English. I don't know, but that's a D-I-E. Here it is on the bottom of it, 1460s. Okay, so you have this die. This
it's usually English.
What is that?
It's usually English. It's a word.
It is used English.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the device is engraved because then it's going to cause whatever you're pressing onto the metal, that it's going to keep it up. Okay, so this question is michvitz choretz or knufei michvitz. So there's a physical question, a scientific physical. When you press onto the metal, does it just push down the metal and whatever's left happens to be left, or it also indirectly also pushes up the metal that's going to be protruding? That I didn't hear, I didn't see. It goes down, only go down, and that's going to be left, or right. That maybe maybe whatever's protruding protrudes more, that it also pushed it up. That's the question. The Gemara. So that's the question. Does it only push the negative, or does it also push the positive up also? That's the question. Physical question. Then maybe it'll be kosher. That's the most question. If it will be knufei michnef, if it also would cause the leftover to protrude more, that it pushes it up also, then it will be kosher.
Well, I'm saying, because only the gear of this flea is to the surrounding.
But maybe when it pushes down the surrounding, it also causes the metal inside to get up also. I think if you, yes, because it does go up. I think if you would take plastilina, how do you say that in English? Plastilina, Play-Doh, and you would press down. I think you could see that it's going to go up because it has no place to go, so it goes up. Okay, this is not a lumbashi question. This is a physical question. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You're not chiseling. You're pressing down, and the metal is somewhat soft. That's why it's pressing down. Maybe it also presses whatever is stuck in the corner. Maybe it's going to go up. And nothing else goes up. Nothing goes up. But the metal, maybe the metal is also. Maybe it goes up. The Gemara says that it doesn't, but Chaim David's okay. That is right. Just that's Akash is Akash. Okay. Amalei michvitz charetz. It only presses down and nothing gets pressed up, and therefore that's it. The physical fact is that it only pushes down what it pushes down. It doesn't push anything. Esvei, it says that it's kosher. The same kasha over again. This probably was cut and paste and copy and paste from someplace else because we just finished talking about it. But the same kasha over again. If so, how is the tzitz kosher? The Gemara again forgot that we just answered that tzitz you do it from the back side. But it says in the brisa, that the Kodesh Lashem that was written on the tzitz was not indented, but it was protruding. Gitin rezav, like golden coins. That same thing as we brought before. And the Gemara thinks that it means that you do it the same way by a dye. Next page, Amud Beis. How is it kosher? If you print, it says it's smart. The more things it means that you make it the same way you make golden coins. You press down on the tzitz, and Kodesh Lashem remains up. It has to be that it pushes it up. If it wouldn't push it up, so then it would be possible. In serious, as we said before, Kedin Rezav will look at Kedin Rezav. We just mean that it's in some ways it's like Kedin Rezav. It means the result is that it remains protruding, not indented. But how did he do it? The process, the method was different. Kedin Rezav, the bole, to look at Kedin Rezav, over there, you by the Kedin Rezav, you do it from the inside, you do it from the front side, and you press down. And by here, you do it from the outer side. The Avrohom is the outside. The boy is inside, the boy is outside. And interesting, the Gemara before used the same thing, but the Gemara used different words before. Why did it change the words? It means the same thing as here, Tochos and Yerechos. And here it uses the words Avrohom Gavai. I don't know why it uses different terminology. Really? Probably, because we spoke about it already, right? Should be copy and paste. That they had the sugi someplace else, and then they brought it over here, and even though we just said it, we forgot it for a second. And the same kasha with the same thing. A little different lesson. New sugi. Everything's good. Yeah, I'm agree with everything. One minute, new sugi. I would make 2 dots here if I'd be able to. New sugi. 1 minute, Rav Nachman. Rav asked Rav Nachman the following question. First of all, get al tashal. He wrote her a get on a plate of gold. On a tass. A tass is a plate. A plate of gold. A plate of gold. Not a plate. You're not going to say a plate if you talk about a dinner plate, but a plate of gold. Sheet of gold. It's gold. It could be engraved on it also. Engraved to get. Like we said, engraving is good. So I don't know why he's making such a big deal out of the get. But he said that here's the ksuba also. He's like, oh, you 200 zuz for the ksuba. The gold itself is worth the ksuba. So he gives her the get and the payment for the ksuba all in one. Is that good enough? Mahu. Because he has to give her the get. So the get has to be for the get alone. So how could he give it? Could he give it also for the ksuba also? Amalei, it's good. So it's good. It's good for the get. And also she got the ksuba also, even though he has to give her the get. So if you gave her the get, so that's payment for the get. That's just the get. Now give me also the ksuba. No, it can count for the payment of the ksuba also. Why? He doesn't have to give her gold. He can give her paper. He can give her a paper get. So he's giving her a gold get in order that it should include the ksuba also. What's the problem? A plate of gold. A sheet of gold. A bar of gold. Yes, this is also okay. This is surely a kosher get. No, it happens to be worth money. So he says, I can give you a get. That's what. Why should I keep it for? No, she'll get. Nowadays they don't keep it either. The bezdin gives her a note that she's divorced, but they don't want her to keep the get even. Once she got the get, she's divorced, and she can do whatever she wants with it. If she wants to have proof, so she'll get a document from bezdin that she's divorced, official dots. Yeah, if she wants to have a document, so she'll get a document that she was divorced. But here she can take the gold and she could melt it down and use it for whatever she wants. She can sell it. It's hers. So here that's worth a lot of money. He wants to tell her, this is all I'm paying for the ksuba also. So is it good for the ksuba? But what's the problem? Because he has to give her the get. The get also has to be given to her. The paper, let's say, be paper. You can't just say, I'm not giving you the paper. The paper has to be hers. He has to give it to her. So now that he gave her the ksuba, could he say that the cost of paper would have been 10 agorot. I'm giving you a golden ksuba that it should golden get that it should count for the ksuba payment also. She said it's good. This kabbalah kita and this kabbalah ksuba. So counts for the ksuba. Kasha, Eisvei, this kabbalah kita for shakal ksuba. This kabbalah kita vashal ksuba. This is a brisa that says a little different. It says take your get, and the rest of it, yeah, he spoke out that the rest should be for the ksuba. Means that there's a margin. There's a margin. So it seems that the margin gold is going to be counting for the ksuba. But that sounds only in that case where he says shaluk subasa. But if it would have been that the whole get is the gold, maybe it's not good. The skablu gita shaluk subasa. No, Hasham means whatever is besides the get. Means the get is like any book. You have a margin, so the get is the get, and the rest, the margin. The rest, whatever is besides the get, should be counted for the ksuba. So that it says it's good. That says it's good. The Brisa says that's good. Right. Right. The smash, but that if there's no margin, it's not good. That's what he gave her a golden get, which is worth a lot of money. What's the difference? What's the difference? He gave her an expensive. And he says that the reason I'm giving you this expensive get is because I'm paying for the ksuba. I owe you 200 zuz. The 200 zuz is the get itself. The get itself is worth 200 zuz. After I give it to you, so you're divorced, and now take it to the goldsmith and do what you want. So it says it's good. Even though the get also has to be given to her, that's okay. He gave her the get. But he said that the difference between a cheap get and an expensive get, I'm giving for the ksuba. The more the kasha, the Brisa sounds like that. Not like that. That's why we just did this sugya about engraving. That engraving is good. If that's what he said, so then is that it's good. This the get is the get, and the rest, the margin is counts for the ksuba. But it sounds only because there's a margin. Time of dikashar or like a shar low. It's mashman this price only if there's a margin that can be counted for the ksuba. But the get is the price that more out of kasha. We just said that the get is good, and then the kasha is and it's good for the ksuba also. The kasha is the Brisa says differently because the Brisa says if it gives her a get and says that the shar, the rest besides the get means the margin should count for the ksuba, that's good. Mashma that's a kasha now. It's mashma only if there's a margin, but if there's no margin, mashma that the whole get has to go for the get, and he can't say that it's expensive and it counts for the ksuba also. So that's a kasha on. Who said it? It's a kasha on Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman said that is kosher. The Gemara says no, it doesn't mean that. Lo, doesn't mean that. Who didn't afagav the lekashar? Even if there's no margin, he also could give the whole get should count for the ksuba. So why does it say? Right, it could count even if there's no margin. So why does it say this whole thing about the shar? You might think that if there's a margin, then even if he didn't say anything, if he said beferish that he wants to get the count for the ksuba, so then it's good. But you might think that if he didn't say anything, so usually it's not good. That only if he said is it good, if he didn't say it's not good. You might think that if there's a margin, even if he didn't say anything, he could afterwards say that I gave you extra for the ksuba. If there's no extra, there's no margin. So if he didn't say that, it counts for the ksuba, so that's the get, even if it's gold. But if there's a margin, then you might think that even if he didn't say anything, the get didn't have to have a margin. The fact that it has a margin, that's extra money that he gave her, and he can tell her afterwards that it's ksuba, even if he didn't say anything. That he has to say it. If he doesn't say it, then even if there's a big margin, it doesn't count for the ksuba. That's just the get. My taima avira de megiltahu, because it's a margin. Again, the end of the Gemara says that it's good, even if there's no margin. Just the fact that it's gold, he can say that I'm giving it to you for the ksuba. If there's a margin, it's surely good, but it's only good if he says so. If he doesn't say so, it's not good. If he says that the gold is going to count for your ksuba, it works. Both if there's a margin and if there's no.
There's more gold.
Again, please. And if he does say it, it's good even if there's no margin. If he says it, if he says that I want to use the value as the ksuba, it works even if there's no margin. That's the whole Gemara. That's what the whole sugya was. It started off without any margin. And then the Gemara said, no, it's only good if there's a margin. So the Gemara has to answer the kasha. That the reason why he says margin is to tell you, even with a margin, it's only good if he says so. But the fact that if he says it's good even without a margin. The whole Gemara now, to summarize, if the get is very valuable because it's made out of gold, he could say that he wants that to go towards the ksuba. If he says so, it goes towards the ksuba. If he doesn't say so, it doesn't go towards the ksuba. No difference if there's a margin or not. You might think that it's a margin if he didn't say anything, even if he didn't say anything. No, it's part of the get. If he says that he wants to go for the ksuba, it does. If he doesn't say it doesn't. If he doesn't say it's not good, everything's kosher. The question is, it's good for the ksuba. So it doesn't work for the ksuba only if he says so. Both even if there's a margin, surely if there's no margin. And even if there is no margin, if he says he does want it to count for the ksuba, it does count for the ksuba. Everything depends if he says so. He has to say that he intends that it should be for the ksuba, or else he doesn't intend that it should be the get. Tana Rabbanan, I raise a gitach v'niyar shali. He gives her the get, but he says the paper belongs to me. He doesn't even want to give no gold. The paper, even the paper doesn't want. It's not good. So it's
Very sad.
it's not a good get because she didn't get a get. She got like Rashi says, Osios Parchas Ba'avias, like the letters are flying in the air. She has to have the paper in order to have the get. It means if she didn't get paper, so she didn't get a get. She just got ink, flying ink. There's not a get. That's not the subject we're talking about. She has to own the piece of paper. So therefore, if he says, I'm not giving you the paper, so then it's not a get. What if he says, that he gives her the get, it's yours, but I'm only giving it to you on the condition you give it back to me. That's like it's yours, but it's only yours if you give it back. If you give it back, then it was yours. If you don't give it back, you don't give it to me, then it's not yours. Like the Esther case, so I raise him with gracious, it's good because she got the paper. Then she has a condition. Same way you can make a condition to whatever condition he makes, to go someplace, whatever. So then she doesn't get the divorce. He made a condition, any condition. Look more. No. Whatever you're referring to might be coming up at the end of the day. Maybe we'll get there, but usually I'm meant to make a condition. Why not? Everything's good. What if he wants to keep the paper? Not the case where he says, I'm not Slav here. He says, Ashita is a line. Do we use that word? Shita means a line? Oh, that's my house. Okay. So I don't know where that word comes from. That means my opinion. But Shita means a line. Where do we have that? We have it any place that we could bring a reference that the word Shita means a line? Okay. Between line, the paper in between the lines, that means the Gemara said he has to give her the paper. He can give it to Anaslan, but he has to give her the paper. He says, I'm not giving you the paper, it's not good. A line of writing. So he says, I have to give you the paper, right? I have to give you the paper. If I don't give you the paper, it's not a get. I'll give you the paper under the writing, but the paper in between the writing, that's mine. Or in between the words, means all the paper that's under the ink, that's yours. But the paper in between the lines and in between the words, that's mine. Is that good? Teku. The Gemara doesn't know. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not good. The Gemara says, of course it's not good. The typically the Sefer Echad Rachman V'lo Shnayim B'Shlosh Esfam. He has to give her one piece of paper. What if he gives her a couple of pieces of paper? Stapled together. He has a few papers. Could it be a two-paper document? No, it has to be a one-paper document. So if he takes the paper in between the lines, it's as if it's cut into pieces. And each line is another paper. That's surely not good. So how could a Papa have a question about it? The Gemara says, take you, what's the question? Well, the case that Papa is talking about is that they're intertwined. No, the person says, creases. And we learn out Sefer Echad for Lo Shneim Shlosha Swan. Since the pasuk says you should give her a Sefer creases, from there we learn out it has to be one piece of paper. You can't give her a 2-paper documented get. It has to be all on one paper. So if he's going to, paper claim means let it be enough. That I'm not sure if that's the exact translation, but the point is for sure it's not good, because if he takes the paper in between the lines, I don't know, maybe. I think more extract maybe that for sure it's not good, because since he took the paper for himself in between the lines, so her get is many pieces of paper, because only the paper under the writing is hers, and the paper in between the lines is not hers. So she got a lot. It's as if she got a lot of pieces of paper. As if he cut out each line and gave her, and the rest of the paper he kept for himself. So he gave her many pieces of paper. It's surely not good. It's like he gave her 2 papers. The answer is, you're right. In that case, it surely is not good. But the case that we talk about that maybe it's good is that they're intertwined. That means that Rashi says like the beginning of each letter or the beginning of each, let's say the lines. So then it's true that the line in between the lines belongs to him. But let's say the beginning of the line, there's a lamed or a nun or something that a chaf, there's something that goes down to the kuf, something that goes down to the next line. So there is going to be some, even if you would, how do you do that? You take out all the cutouts. Even if you take out all the cutouts, all the lines would be connected in the beginning of the line, at the end of the line. You're right. If there would be a whole line that she doesn't have anything over there, he takes the whole paper between the lines. If he cut it, then it's 2 pieces of paper. It's no good. But the case that the question would be is that on each line there is some connection between the 2 lines, that the writing goes down from one line to the next line. So then she gets all that paper. So even if you take out all of his paper, you still would have a cutout, like what do they call the doilies or something like that, So there'd be still one connected get, even though there'd be a lot of cutouts. And that's what we don't know. But if you talk about there's going to be a whole line that there's no nun sofit or lamed, nothing's going from line to line. So then it's surely not good, because it's as if he gave her many pieces of paper. That's not to get to the letter. It has to be next to it. That's enough that she got all that paper. She got when you cut it out, she's going to get that. We didn't take away the letters in between the paper in between the letters. We said the paper in between the lines, in between the words. Okay, that's that. Then why the question about the paper has to belong to her. When he gives her again, the paper has to belong to her, and he could do amanatan amanas lachzir. Then why the question about the paper between the lines, if they're connected in a way that all the writing would be connected on one piece of paper, and that the more leaves as a taken. New Gemara, unrelated. If we knew that a certain Eved Kanani belonged to the husband, we get Kosav al Yada. We knew that a certain Eved, John, or maybe a more Hebrew name because he's Eved Kanani, that he belongs to the husband. Eved Kanani belongs to the husband. It says in the Mishnah. It says in the Mishnah that you could a get could be written on the hand of an Eved. We had that. You could write a get on the hand of an Eved. That's a Mishnah, right? So now we're saying. Now it says, what if he knew that the Eved was his, and now there's a get written on his hand? Yes, and she has the Eved, and she says she got divorced. Here it is. Here's my get. We don't have proof that he gave it to her. If we have proof that he gave him the Eved, that's a good get. That's the Mishnah. A get could be written on the hand of an Eved and give her the whole Eved. Here the question is, did he ever give it to her? Already you'll say mitachas yada that the Eved happens to be by the woman's domain, and she says that my ex-husband, gave me his Eved as a get, and here's a get on his hand. I'm divorced. Mahu. Is that a good proof that she's divorced? Usually, if it's a piece of paper and she has the piece of paper that says she's divorced, she has the get. That's a proof that she's divorced. But here, it's not a piece of paper. It's a living Eved. Maybe the Eved decided to walk over. We don't have proof that the husband gave the get to the wife. A regular piece of paper, if she has it, there's proof she got it. How did she get it? It didn't walk over. You could talk about the horn of animal also. How did the animal get? Maybe the animal walked over. We'll get to that also maybe. But here's talking about the Eved. The Eved might have walked over to the woman, and he likes the woman better than his mistress more than his master, whatever it was. Gave. Right. If we know that he gave it. That's the Mishnah. That it's a good get. There's no problem with the writing. If he wrote it on the hand, that's okay. But means that we see that the Eved is here. I don't know how to say the word Yotze, that he happens to be now by the woman's domain. Mahu, is that a good proof that he gave it to her? He gave him to her. Does that mean that if he's by her, if the Eved is by the woman, that must be that the husband gave the Eved to the woman and she's divorced? Oh, Dilma, maybe he took a walk. Maybe on his own he came in. Maybe the Eved walked. Do we say that that's a proof that the husband gave him to her, or maybe he walked over on his own? The word ayil means nichnas, that he came into the house by himself. Amarava, so this is a parenthesis over here. I would have put parentheses if I could. Amarava, it's not a good get because if it's written on somebody's hand, on a human being's hand, you have ink on your hand, you could rub it out, you could erase it, and the paper plate, the ksav shechol is daifu. That's not a good get. Really should be asking on the Mishnah, but say right away that if someone writes with ink on a human skin, it's not a good get because it could be forged. It could be. I'm a rabbi, but typically the ksav shechol is daifu, let alone the fact that it is able to be forged. So it's not a good get. Forget about how it got here. Even if he gave it to her, it's not a good get because it's forgeable. So the Gemara says, no, it's forgeable. It's a skin is a kind of a paper that you can erase it, and you can't tell that it was erased. Right. A paper has to be a kind of a paper that you can tell that it was erased. If it's a kind of paper you can't tell, then it's not kosher. Skin is a kind of a paper. Let alone. So the Gemara says, why did Rava ask the kasha over here? Like, this is not the place to ask the kasha. The Mishnah says that's kosher to try to get on the hand of an Eved. Well, the Rava, why are you asking over here? Kasha masnisin. This is like a parentheses within the parentheses. Why did you wake up to cast the kasha over here? Masnisin, kasha masnisin. The kasha, the Mishnah is difficult. It says in the Mishnah b'feirish aliyah shel Eved that he could write the get on a hand. It says b'feirish that the Mishnah says that's kosher. If it's a kasha, you should have asked the kasha on the Mishnah. The Gemara says no, that's not a problem. Bishlama masnisin the Rava lo kasha. Rava had no problem with the Mishnah. The Eidim Mesira, Rabbi Lazari. The Mishnah could be talking about that there are Eidim Mesira that we have that Be'etzem is good, that the Eidim saw that the Eved was given over. So it's true that even if it's forgeable paper, it says here that according to Rabbi Lazar, we don't care. Even though if it says here the Gemara says that according to Rabbi Lazar, forgeable paper is good. It comes out of Chiddush that even though the Mishnah says that forgeable paper is not good, here it says only according to those who argue on Rabbi Lazar. But according to Rabbi Lazar, Eidim Mesira Kasi, since the Edom see that it was given over, it's good. Even if there's no signature and they know what it says, they read it, they know what it says, it's kosher even if it's forgeable paper. Maybe it'll be cautious on this. But here it says that according to Belazar, even if it's forgeable paper, it's okay. That wouldn't be a problem. So the Mishnah says that it's kosher, it's only according to Belazar and they were Edom Mesira. But over here, Avrohom kasha, because Avrohom is talking about that you don't have Edom Mesira. If there's Edom Mesira that we know that the husband gave it over to the wife, then there's no question. Of course, he knows that he gave it over. The case is that there are no Edom Mesira here, even if there were Edom Mesira at the time. But she doesn't. They went away. She says they went away to overseas. They're not here, and she wants to prove that she's divorced because she has the Eved. That means that Rabbi Yochanan thinks that it's a good get, even if there are no Edom Mesira. Means according to what the Gemara is asking, if you have a forgeable paper, even though it's kosher, it's only going to be kosher when you bring up the Edom Mesira to say that this is what it said. But if you're not, then it's not going to be kosher. Rabbi Bachama, you see, holds that there's a forgeable get over here and it's kosher, even though the Edom Mesira don't come and testify. That's the Mor's kasha. How is it good? How could the Rabbi have a forgeable get without any Edom Mesira? We can't trust whatever it says. Lo kasha. Rabbi Bachama, nami lo kasha. Biksovas kaka. It's the tattoo. A tattoo is not forgeable. Regular ink is forgeable, but tattoo is not forgeable. So that was the question of Rami Bar Chama. If the fact that she has the Eved, is that a proof that she got it, or maybe the Eved walked over on his own? This was always a parenthesis to talk about. It's forgeable? It's a problem, a side problem. So the Gemara says it's tattooed. Once you know this trial about a tattoo, so you don't have to talk about the Mishnah and say Rabbi Lezer, the Masira. You can say that the Mishnah means that it's kosher on the Eved if it's tattooed. If it would be written, maybe it's not kosher because it's forgeable, and forgeable is not good if you're not going to Rabbi Lezer. So that would all, so parentheses, our main kasha again was, not a kasha, shaila, that if a woman has the Eved with a get on him, and a kosher get, that means that it's tattooed. So there's no question about the validity of the get. But the question is, did she get it? Or the husband, maybe the husband has prepared the Eved with the get, but he tattooed him in order to give her the get when he wants, but he didn't give it. Maybe he didn't give him to her yet. Just because the Eved is found in the house of the woman doesn't mean that he was given. Maybe she walked over on his own. My Allah, what's the maskana? What's going to be about this question? Are we choshish that the Eved walked by himself? Tashma, Davar Shlokish, Agod was saying Lam Chazaka. Shlokish says that animals, there's no chazaka. Yeah, Godros means a flock. Is that, how do I know that? But that's not, it's probably from Rashi. Godros means sheep. Where is Rashi? Godros behemos, Hashem Gidros son. Okay, Rashi says it means animals. Animals have no chazaka. If a person has an animal, it's not a proof that it's his. If he has an inanimate object, he has a cup. So then, and someone else says, it's my cup. He says, no, I have it. That means that you sold it to me. That's a proof. You have to prove that I stole it. But someone has some kind of a metaltalin. I forgot the fancy word for metaltalin. Fancier. Chattel. So that's a
Commodities.
What is that?
Commodities.
Commodities. So then it's a proof that it says, well, how do you have it? If you have it, it's a right that it's yours. But by but cattle or flock or any kind of animal, or now our concern is Eved Kanani, it's not a proof that it's yours because they walk on their own. It's not a proof that it's yours. So that's the answer. Just like by Chazak, it's not a right that it's yours. So by the get, you can't say that I'm divorced because you see I have the Eved that has a get on it. Maybe the Eved walked over. It's not a proof. She has to prove that she got divorced. The Mishnah talks about that as a kosher get. Now you want to know that if she wants to prove it, she has to have Adam that it was given to her. It's a kosher get, but how does she know that she got it? She has to prove that she got it. Yeah, that was the question. We said maybe. We didn't know that. We didn't know. We just asked, are we choshish that maybe he walked over by himself? What's the maskana? What's the halacha? And we just had a question. We didn't know. So the Gemara says, Rish Lakish says that animals, there's no chazaka. The fact that you have it is not a proof that it's yours. So too, by the Eved over here, there's no proof that it's yours just because you have it. So we tell her it's nice that you have the Eved. It's not a proof. Maybe you walked over. Prove that the husband gave it to you. New Gemara. We knew that a certain tablet, paper, or whatever it is hers. We get kasavala, and she has a get. A get is written on it from the husband. And he has it, and he wants to give it to her. And he's saying that the wife gave him the tablet, and he wrote a get on it. He wants to give it to her, which sounds very good. But the question is, right, it's very good. That Levi Yaakov was saying that Moore said it before, that we mentioned it today in the beginning, that the minhag was she always paid for it. She always paid for the scribe. Everybody said to do it even because, and here the case was that she had an actual tablet, and she gave it to the husband, and the husband wrote a get and wants to give her now the get. What's the problem? Everything sounds good. The good side would be that she knows to be maknet to him. She knows she's going to get it right back. What the Gemara is going to say is that it sounds like a ceremony. We tell her, give it to him, and he's going to give it back to you. So in the woman's head, it sounds like a ceremony. And it's really mine. He's writing it on my tablet, and she has to get it out into her head. What? New paragraph, new piece of paper, new document. No shaykhs to before. A woman has a piece of paper. The husband's wants to write a get. He says, I have no paper. She says, I'll give you a piece of paper. He writes the get and he gives it back to her. Before the text. She takes a piece of paper, that's her paper. She takes it out of her writing pad, has a fancy writing pad, she gives him a piece of paper, he writes the get, he gives it to her. Sounds good. Maybe it's not good, because maybe since she knows she's going to get it back right away, so the whole thing's a tekes, the whole thing's a ceremony, I'll give you the paper, but she's not being maknet to him, she's not giving him that, it's his paper. She has to have the halachic attitude that this is your paper now. Do whatever you want. It's your paper. And then he takes the paper rights together, gives it to her, but she has to know it to be makna. She has to know it has to be a lamdainista, to know that she has to give it to him. Do you say that she was makna to him? Oh, Dilma, she doesn't know to be makna. She doesn't know this kind of halachic things. If she gets something, she's giving something a present, she knows it's a present. But if she knows she's getting it back right away, she doesn't know this numbers. So she thinks she could write on my paper. Right. Yes. That it said on the top. That yeah, Kate Gemara said before that if he gives her the how did it say before? Did it say before? Okay, but yeah, and then he has to give her that was saying she has to give it to her, but that it has to be his. There it says it has to end up being hers. But now we're talking about that it has to first be his. So here was hers the whole time. But you have to know it has to come from him to her. We didn't have it. Okay. No, we said it doesn't. The shafruta could even be a Yisuri Hano. Not only an olive leaf, it could even be a Yisuri Hano. It doesn't have to be worth anything. But and the Gemara said, as a Chiddush, you might think maybe this is what the Gemara said, that you might think that it has to have any Shabbos. It doesn't have to have any value, but it has to at least be that he gave from him to her. So even though it's a Yisuri Hano, it means he doesn't really own it. Okay? But, okay, I hear that's maybe a kasha that if it's a Yisuri Hano, he doesn't really have ownership on a Yisuri Hano. The Gemara said it is good. Here the Gemara says that he has to own it. If it's hers, it's not good. And therefore, if we just tell her to give it to him, she gave it to him, is that enough? Well, she doesn't go for this. She doesn't understand this kind of lumdus that she has to give it to him if she's getting back anyway. So she doesn't look at it as a real kinyan. Hefker means that we took it away from her and we gave it to him. Yes. I don't know why. He did, I hear, but I don't know why. Okay, maybe that's the pshat. That it doesn't have to give her anything. It doesn't have to really own it, but it has to be not hers. Maybe that's true. But I think that maybe it does have to own it. Probably if someone else he'd write in somebody else's paper, I'm not sure. Okay, I don't know. What? I think so. I think halachically there's no ownership on something that doesn't have any value. There's nothing to own. But that maybe it's a question. If it's a question, so it's not for us now. Maybe it's not question. Okay. So that was the question. Does she know to be makna? And Lady Yaakov mentioned that yesterday. We said that every time that she pays for it, we say that is good, even though she's paying for it. So I say he also doesn't have to know. Every time. Okay. So we're on the lookout to find if a woman knows to be makna when she's going to get it back anyway. Amar Abaye. It says here. He's saying it depends. That's Avrahom's question. They can't make a call for everybody. Yeah, they want to talk in general. The women know. The truth is, they want to talk about all kinds of people, and each time he's going to say maybe a woman is different. Here it goes. Amar Abaye, Tashma. Let's take it first general that we're not talking about a woman. Maybe a person who's giving something and knows they're going to get it back right away. Maybe it is not considered das. Amar Abaye, Tashma. Afu heil akfar katan shayi b'tzadi Yerushalayim. Vay bazak enechad. Vay yamal v'lachol b'nei akfar. V'kosev b'ksav yado. V'achem chospin. There was a testimony. It was the testimony. Rashi says Yehuda ben Bava and Maseches Idios. He testified that there was a kfar, a village, a small town next to Yerushalayim. There was an old man over there, a Talmud Chacham, I don't know, and he used to lend the people of the city money, many people of the village money, and he would make a star, and he would write it with his. He would write it. At the Malva, usually the Malva is not the one who writes the Lov is the one who writes that I owe you money. But here the Malva wrote it because they didn't know how to write maybe. So he wrote the IOU, and people would sign it. So is that kosher? They said it's kosher. And even though it's his paper, he's the Malva and he's using his own paper. So Taishu says the kasha is difficult because for a Malva there's no issue. A Malva could write, what's the problem? You don't have to have dafka. He's giving his own paper, even though the Lov is the one who usually gives the paper because you're getting the loan, so you get the paper in order, you give me the paper. But there's no din that the Malva can't use his own paper. Why not? So Taisha says I think the answer, but the Gemara must mean that also not only loans, also if he would get something, if he would get a matana, a shtar matana, or something like that, there would be a deed of sale in a way where the shtar itself would be the Kenyan, a Kenyan shtar. Also, he would use the paper. He's the buyer. If he'd be the one who's getting it. What does he say here? Nosim lo b'matana, mochem lo sodos, and they make a Kenyan shtar. And also, he would write them, even though he's the buyer or the recipient, and it has to be that the one who's giving them by Kenyan shtar, he's receiving. Someone's gives him a present, a deed of sale or a deed of present. What's a deed of present called? A shtar matana or a shtar mecher. And over there, the halacha is that the giver is the one who has to give a Kenyan shtar. It has to be that it's his shtar, and he gives it to the recipient or to the kona, and that's how the Kenyan happens. Not just a document of proof, a document of acquisition. And over there, it's also mashma that he was the one who used to write it. One. Okay. So this man over there, the zaken, sounds like nobody else knew how to write, and he would also use his own paper when he would buy something or get something, and that's the Morris Kasha. So you see that he would be marking it to them, and then he would get it back. So what was the whole question? In the case where somebody is giving something, he knows he's going to get it back right away, does he realize that he has to do a kinyan, an official kinyan, that you're really giving it? So you see that it was kosher. So here also by the woman, if you know she takes the paper and gives it and gets it back, it's good. She makes a kinyan. That has to be the one who's being makna. So you see that he knows that this zaken had seichel. He knew the halacha that he has to give it and then get it back. Oh, I'm a rebel. My kusha, what's the riot? Dilma zaken. Shani, he was an old man. He's a man. Smart. Maybe he's a tzaddik also. He lends people as a gemach and everything. So it's not a riot in this case. Question. So we continue. Let's look out for a different riot. I'll bring a different raya. It says, if a guarantor signs, there's a document, a loan document, that the lender and the borrower, and then someone becomes a co-signer afterwards, after it's already signed. It means there's already signatures, the Adam signed on it that the lova owes the malva money. And then the co-signer obligates himself to become guarantor. Thank you. He becomes a guarantor. By signing his name, he writes afterwards that I'm a guarantor on the above loan. But it was ready after it wasn't during the document, it was after the document. After it was already signed, then the guarantor came and he signed his name. He's also chayiv to be a guarantor. Over there, he's being, how's he mechayiv himself? By the shtar. So he should have to be his shtar. The lova shtar but here it's already the malva. The lova gave it to the malva, and now belongs to the malva, and the lova signs that I'm chayiv to you to be a guarantor. How does he mechayiv himself? If he makes a kinyan, he makes a kinyan. But he didn't make a kinyan. It's just the shtar itself makes the chiyuv of the orid. How could he be chayiv if it's not his paper? It must be that the malva is maknet to him in order to become in order to become the orid. So don't you see that the malva knows to be makna even though he's going to get it back again? Again, the Gemara says a similar thing. At least he's a man. Maybe he's not a zaken, but he's a man. I'm Ravashi, my kusha, Doma Gabashani, the other laknei. Men know more of these halachic details than the women. Maybe a woman doesn't know. So still the kasha is if the woman gave a piece of paper to the husband to get a get, and she gave it and got it back, maybe it's not a good get, but she never really gave it. Alam Ravashi meyacha, I'll bring a raya. This is a raya about a woman. It says Isha Koseva says Gita, Vaish Kosev es Shobro, Shem Kim Shtok Get, Ela B'Chosama. It is kosher for a woman to write her own get. She writes the get and she writes a get. She's not to write a get. Of course, you have to have the husband should give it to her, and you have to have Eidei Masira, Eidei Chasima, whatever you have to have. Yes, she's a soferet. She knows how to write. She's a scribe. She's as good as anybody. And here the case is that she's writing her own get. That means that it's on her own paper. The Gemara understands. I don't know how the Gemara knows exactly, but you see that she knows to be makna. We're not choshesh that she doesn't know to be makna. That was the whole question. Does a woman have the vital to be makna? So she says, yeah. Or she understands. No, so no. That the Gemara doesn't make that. That the Gemara doesn't say that. Also says the opposite. Ish kosev v'shofar. The husband wants a receipt that he paid the ksuba. So even though it's the woman who has to write the receipt, the husband can write the receipt and give it to her, and she gives it back. So that's not the point. The point is over the chiddush is the woman, but even the woman also knows that she has to be matri. That's the end of the sugya. He can write a receipt for himself. Because the verification of the star is going to be by the signatures. It means it doesn't make a difference who writes it as long as you get good signatures. There are signatures on this thing. The get means either the get or the shover, that it has to do with the signatures. We don't care. It means the right man wrote his own receipt. Yeah, it's not me. I can't write my own receipt. I have to evade them. If it will be only I wrote, if the Lover writes IOU, it's Xavier, his manuscript shows that I'm saying I'm Chayiv. So of course only the Lover. The Malva can't write you owe me. That's how the Gemara sees it. Gemara seems to say that if the woman writes a get, I mean, she's not only writing it, she's doing it on her own paper also. That must mean that's how the Gemara takes it. That she's writing the get and she gives it to the husband and then he gives it back to her with Adam. So you see that she has that. She knows enough that she has to be maknet. And we don't say it's just a ceremony. She understands that it's serious. She has to give it, the leif shalom, and it belongs to the husband. Yeah, that's not necessary. We could put in parentheses. We don't need that really. New Gemara. Amar Rava. What? It does have to be his, but she knows to give it to him. It has to be his, or it has to be at least not hers. And it was hers, and she's going to get it back. But she has enough seichel to know that she has. Right, that's the Gemara thinks is a good right. She's a woman. A woman is a woman, and even though she's a mulumada, but we say woman if she knows, she tell her to be makna. This is a Ram's question of the whole shas. That how do you say such a generalization? Maybe people are different. Some people do, some people don't. I don't know. I don't think that by a receipt that anybody has to own it really. There's no. That's only a proof. It's not. That's only for a proof. It's not for an acquisition. It's not making any kinyan. By the get, it's making the get. That's a side point. They're just not scared that he's the one who wrote it. So who says it's a proof that he got the proof because you have Adam. Can't give some of the absolute signatures. No, there's no halachic issue about the paper. The chiddush over there is that you're not choshish. There's no problem the fact that he wrote his own receipt. And also, there's no problem. The main point is there's no problem. She wrote her own gift, but we see a side chiddush even though it's her own paper. Ugemara, Amarava, Amarava. Amarava. Because of the get and the son of Biad Abdo, because of Lo Shtar Matana Allah, he wrote a get and gave it into. And he didn't write it on the Eved's hand. This is a regular case. He put the piece of paper. He wrote a get and gave it to his Eved. And then he had a way to transfer it to the woman without even after the walking over. Because of Lo Shtar Matana Allah. And he gave the Eved as a present to the wife. Again, he wrote on the Eved, not on him, not on his hand, concerning him. A kitzer, he gave the Eved as a present to the woman. He wrote a get, put it into the hand of the Eved, and now he makes the Eved to belong to the wife. He gives her as a present. He gives the Eved as a present to the woman, and now she gets the Eved who's holding a get. The same way he could throw a get into her property, if it'll be her Eved. So he could give he put the get into the Eved's hand, and it's Chatzar. Ken Chatzar means he gave the present. He's like he wrote a shtar concerning the Eved that he's hereby giving the Eved to the woman. He gives shtar, he doesn't give her a get. He gives her a shtar matan. This Eved is now transferred to the woman. He gave her a present. And this present, there's no messenger. There's no messenger. He's not a messenger. He's an Eved. He's an Eved. Let's say a simple case, and then we'll get the complicated. It's a simple case. The next one is going to say a simpler case. No, it didn't say. It didn't say. He said, stand here and read. I'm giving you the Eved as a present. And he gives her the contract that now the Eved belongs to her. And yes, and all of a sudden, in her property is a get. And she becomes divorced because the get was put into her property. Right, exactly. And now, if she'd have a chaser, he could throw a get into her chaser. She's divorced. He could also put the get into his chaser. He could put into that's a yeah. These are general questions. If he puts the get into the chaser, she has to know that she's divorced. Okay, but he put into her chaser. Also, if he put into his chaser and then gave the chaser to her as a present, also divorced. And here's another case of a chaser is an eved. The eved is like a chaser. That if there's something in the eved is holding belongs to the master because kinyan chaser. So he put the eved, the get into the eved's hand, and then he gave the eved. He transferred the eved's ownership from himself to the wife, and now she owns the eved. Together with acquiring the eved, she got a get because the get is in the eved's hand. Amarav, because of la get and the son of biyad avdo, because of la shtamatan alav. Kanasahu, and I pronounce that, umiska reshes bo. She acquires the eved and she becomes divorced automatically. The Gemara is a side problem. That is that true that when something is in the hand of the eved, the owner acquires it because of kinyan chatzah? Kinyan chatzah usually means that if something falls into your chatzah, you own it. And the Gemara says eved is also like a chatzah. But that was the problem that he's a movable chatzah. The Gemara knows that a chatzah has to be stationary. This is not a stationary chatzah. An eved is a movable, portable chatzah, and the portable chatzah is not kona. So the eved shouldn't be a good kinyan chatzah. Maybe the eved is right now standing, so he's stationary. That's good. No, that's not true. If he'd be moving, it wouldn't be kona. Even if right now he's temporarily standing or sitting, it's also not kona. It has to be permanent. It has to be really stationary. And he's not stationary because he could move, so it's not a good kinyan chatzah. Even if he would put it, this kash has nothing to do with the fact that he gave it to her simultaneously. Even if he would have put the get into her eved's hand, also the Gemara would ask, it's not kinyan chatzah. The Gemara answers, the case we're talking about is that he was tied up. If David's tied up, he can't move. That's not portable anymore, even though he could theoretically be untied. Right now he's tied, so he's a stationary chatzah, and then he could be kona. But if he's movable, it's not talking about such a case. All this would have been in parentheses. This thing about Amai, we would have put all this into parentheses. No. He's outside. He's by the husband. He's in the husband's right. And the husband made him. He's not movable, then no get. Right. And he can't move, so he's a station chatzah, and inside his pocket is a get. Because she acquired the eved, which is a chatzah, and simultaneously stationary chatzah, and simultaneously she got the get. And now the Rav is the same thing in a more simple case. This case would have been simpler. He wrote a get, put it into his own chatzah, right? Because of same thing. To acquisition of the chatzah to the woman. Can anybody help me? She acquires the chatzah and she gets divorced automatically because the get is in her chatzah. And he said both. He said two things, the same thing. He said about a chatzah, he said about an eved. There's no. Why is the chiddush more one than the other? But tzricha, you have to tell us both things. There's a chiddush in each one. Yesh min an eved. Have a menu davke eved. Have a chatzah ligzam mishum chatzera abol nacham mikan. If he would have only said the case of David, I would have thought that a chatzah is more problematic. Why? Because there's something called chatzera abol nacham. Okay, if somebody put a get into somebody else's chatzah, not his own chatzah, he put it into somebody else's chatzah. Ruvain put a get into Shimon's chatzah, and then Shimon gave it or sold it to the woman, to the Reuben's wife, then it's not a get. Why not? Because the husband didn't give it to her. The husband gave it to Shimon, and then Shimon gave it to the wife. That's not a good get. It wasn't a shliach. So that's called chatzar b'lach mikan, that the chatzar came after the husband put the get into it. So that's not good. And you would think that here also that the husband gave the chatzar to her. It's also not good because it's too similar. Here the husband gave the chatzar to the wife, and here he gave the chatzar to somebody else who then gave it to the wife. It's confusable. You might think that it's the same thing. And if the case of the husband giving the chatzar to the wife is good, you might think that if you gave it to Shimon, who then gave it to the wife, it's also good. That's not good because the husband didn't give it to her. So therefore, you have to finish. You might think there's a gzera, ligzor. You might think that they make a gzera to a similar case, which be chatzera b'al achamikan, which Rashi says chatzera b'al achamikan. Ki go nas and get b'chatzer chaveiro, v'alach b'al chatzer mochal asa chatzer, anas nabu matana. If the husband would have put a get into somebody else's chatzer, I didn't say it. I said it wrong. Maybe the husband put the get into somebody else's chatzer. He put it into his neighbor's chatzer, and then the neighbor sold his chatzer to the woman. So that's not good because the husband never gave it to her. So you might think this case is too similar. The case with husbands giving her the chatzah, you would not make the gzera. Okay, the truth is we don't make the gzera. You're right. You're right again. We don't make the chatzah. You would have thought so. You wouldn't have thought so. Okay, so that's what the Gemara says. You don't make the gzera. I'm not sure why it says why the Eved is good. Why by the Eved would you not make the gzera also? That wouldn't happen. That he'll put the get into an Eved and somebody else's Eved's hand, and then. Okay, that wouldn't be a reason for a gzera. Aval Eved, and the other way the Gemara says also is a chiddush. Yeah, I mean this part is the easy part. Yeah, I mean a chatzar. I mean a dafka chatzar. Well, Eved ligs a kafas out to a shena kafas. There's a big chiddush that an Eved who's tied up is a good chatzar. Eved who's not tied up is not a good chatzar. You would think that if you're going to say that a tied up Eved is a good chatzar, they'll think that an Eved could be a good chatzar even if he's not tied up. Mashma that both of them are good. So you can put the Eved, you can put the get into his chatzar and give the chatzar to the woman. He could put the get into the Eved's hand and give the Eved to the woman. Both of them are good. No, only if he's tied up. If he's not tied up, so then it's not going to be a kinyan chatzar. Then what's the problem with this? Amar Abaye, Mechdi. So this is Rabba's din. Abaye has a complaint. Amar Abaye, Mechdi, chatzar meichais Rabbi. Miyad. How do you know that a kinyan chatzar? How do you know this thing? That a chatzar, like a riboy, like a learned out, added on to. How do you know? Where do you learn out that a chatzir is good? Because it's like a yad. It's learned out from a yad. You learn it out from just like a yad. If someone less than biyada, that if a hand could be kona, so a chatzir also could be kona. It's similar to a yad. But then if that's so, my yada the isa bein b'dai to bein bal kocha, af chatzira the isa bein b'dai to bein bal kocha. Just like a hand, the husband can give to the woman's hand if she likes it or not. We're talking about on the halacha. Nowadays they made it kind of a renegation. But really, the husband can give the get against her will. She doesn't have to want it. Even if she doesn't want it, he can give it to her, even if she doesn't. So the chatzar also should only be kona the chatzar if he can give it to her bal kocha. That it's her chatzar. Now he throws it into the chatzar if she likes it or not. But over here, he put it into his chatzar, and she's accepting the present. If she doesn't accept the present, she doesn't get divorced. So is that a good kinyan chatzar? The chatzar should only be able to be divorced if she has no way to say no. But if she has a way to say no, it shouldn't be a good kinyan chatzar. And here, that she has to want to accept the present. If she doesn't want the present, not the Eved or the chatzar, so then it's not a get because she didn't accept the chatzar. So his kasha was that it shouldn't be kosher. Amatana, Isa, Ridaita, Isa, Valkarchales, it's only good if she agrees. If she doesn't agree, he can't do it against her will. So it shouldn't be a good get. It's a vice kasha on Rava. Masif Lav Shimi Barashi, Rashi is going to attack Abaye. You're saying that every time there has to be dafka, even if it should be able to be against her will. Shlichus l'kabbalah. How about shliach l'kabbalah? Is a shliach l'kabbalah good? So we don't talk about it too much. The whole concept of shliach l'kabbalah. Shliach l'kabbalah means that the woman sends a shliach to receive the get. The husband sends a get. It's called the shliach la'alacha. That's called the husband is making a shliach to bring the get, and she doesn't get divorced until she gets the get in her hand. But a shliach l'kabbalah means that the woman appoints a shliach to receive the get. And it becomes a get as soon as the shliach receives it. Over there, it's only because she agreed. The husband can't appoint a shliach l'kabbalah. That's the woman's choice if she wants it or not. So that's the Moshe kasha. that if you're saying that it's only good if it could be balkorcha, a shliach hakabbalah wouldn't be good. The midaita isa balkorcha less. It's only good if she agrees. If she doesn't agree, it's not. Okay, have shliach hakabbalah, and there is such a thing that a woman could appoint a shliach hakabbalah. According to your alumnus Abaye, it wouldn't be true. So you see that your yisod is not true. Abaye says it's not a kasha on me. Out to shlichas miyad Rabbi, the v'shilach v'shilchas Rabbi. You don't learn that from yad. My whole point was that chassid learn it from yad, and yad is even against her will. So the chassid has to be even against her will. But the din of shlichus is not that from someplace else. You don't learn that from yad. You learn that from the din the shulchami beiso. It could have said b'shilach and it says b'shilcha. It's a different limit over there to learn out that a shliach l'kabbalah is good. But something that you learn out from yad, Abaye holds has to be dafka able to do it balkorcha, and by the chatzah which she's getting, or the eved which is accepting it as a present, and she doesn't have to, so that wouldn't be a good chatzah. Another reason Abaye could say shlichus l'kabbalah nami ashkechan balkorcha. There is a kind of a shlichus l'kabbalah that's against her will. Shekein av l'kabel get l'bito ktana balkorcha. Her father could accept the get for his daughter who's a ktana even if she doesn't agree. The same way that a husband can give a get to the wife, he can give it to the father of the ktana, and that's also a way that even if she didn't appoint the father, and even if I think even if the father doesn't agree either, I'm not sure about that the husband can give a get to the father, and that's called the shliach hakabbalah balkorcha. So the way the Gemara, that's the end of the Gemara, the way it ends up, it sounds like Abaye wins. That Abaye attacked Rava. That who says that a chutzner is good? The chutzner ever that he gave it to her present. That maybe it's only good if it's a kind of a chutzner that she has no way to say no. But here, that the whole get is only given because she agrees to accept the present. Maybe it's not good. That's how the Gemara ends off. But anyway, a person like Rava anyway, and the kasha, we don't accept the kasha of Abaye. And even though she only accepted it because she decided to, it's still a good get. And we stop here. So we're still Amud behind. Okay, yes, everybody. Thank you. Oh no, we're Amud behind, but okay.